Hello and welcome to the Heal Strong podcast with me, Namita Purohit. I am a leadership and life coach, and I serve my clients using the best of Eastern wisdom and Western psychology so that they can make the transformations that they need at a very, very rapid pace. Now, today, this is the Heal Strong podcast, and today the podcast is dedicated to people who are trying to make sense of their very difficult relationships, who are trying to recover and heal from some very difficult relationships, who've gone through years and years of confusion in their relationships, and they're now beginning to discover that it's not them, but it's not themselves, but it's who they're working with, who they're living with, and that's what's causing so much damage to them. And this podcast is sponsored by the Heal Strong program, which is a program dedicated to helping people recover from toxic, narcissistic, emotional abuse. And we run a 5 step process that you learn in the Heal Strong method. And as we talk about one of the things that I have been noticing in all my clients, and I've told that to them and shared that with them, is that as people go through years and years of a difficult relationship where they're going through constant manipulation, where they're going through constant devaluing, they're being manipulated for, serving the other person without any regard to their own needs and feelings, where they're being devalued consistently, where they're constantly being criticized, their confidence being broken, even when they were such great high achievers before they got into that relationship, and they were very good at whatever they did. And that constant, isolation, making you disconnect from all these different relationships that you could have, making you isolating you, divorcing you, even from your own self, right? Where you've forgotten who you are, where you've forgotten what your needs and feelings are, what your aspirations are. And then you meet somebody and then you see, like, wow, they're doing so much, they're thriving so much. And then you remember all those aspirations you had, all those plans you had for yourself. And you feel so depressed when you are in that situation because it reminds you of who you could be when you see the other person. But you feel so sad and so depressed that you didn't do it. And then you start blaming yourself for not executing, etc. The point is that you're not the same person that you used to be before you got abused by the narcissist. Yes. So before you got into that toxic relationship, before you got into that difficult relationship, you were this extremely bright, chirpy, happy, energetic person who had dreams in your eyes and who wanted to do so many things. And then you got into this relationship. It looked beautiful in the beginning with so much love and so much affection. But once you got into that relationship and, over a period of time, you were just being neglected, you were being tormented, traumatized, suppressed, etc. That over a period of time, gradually, this beautiful, bright, vibrant self that you had started getting chipping away. All of that started getting chipping away, those parts of your personality. It didn't happen overnight. If it happened overnight, you would have been able to notice it. It didn't happen overnight. It happened over a gradual period of time that it became normal to you. Every time a part of you got chipped off, every aspiration you gave up, every desire you gave up, every need you gave up, gradually you eased into that new way of being, which was very advantageous to the person you were living with, but it was horror. It was terrible for you. You've become, you shrunk, and you can't even recognize yourself. It's like you were a grape, you became a raisin. Yes, can't even recognize. Is this the same thing? Like, I know when I was a kid, and like, I one day understood. My mom explained to me that raisins were actually grapes. I was like, wow, they don't even look similar, right? And then when I was much older, that childhood memory was still stuck in my head. That whole wow thing, that I actually dehydrated. There was a lot of sun. There were a few sunny days in Seattle, this is maybe like 20 years ago. And I actually had a tray out of black raisins, I mean, black grapes, red grapes with, seedless ones. And I put them out on a tray and I dehydrated them. I'm like, wow, this transformation really happened over a few days. Yes. And that's what happened to us. We can't even recognize who we are. We've become a shrunken, shriveled version of ourselves. Um, but the quality is still there. like just like the grape that shrinks into a raisin, it still has the qualities of the grapes, right? It still has the nutritional qualities of the grapes. So the qualities are still there, but you need some nourishment, you need some support, you need some recognition to help you get there. Now, what are some of the things happened? I've seen two patterns that evolve, that usually as a coping mechanism that people get into, right? And that's why I say they've stopped recognizing themselves. They're unable to recognize who we are and who am I become, and you become ashamed of yourself. You start wondering, like, what is going on here, right? So there are two things that people do, right? Either they go down the route of getting really aggressive and angry. Yes. So the whole thing becomes so much for you. All that abuse, that gaslighting, that devaluation, that being treated like an object, the victim blaming and the reactive abuse and all of that, that you get so angry, you become a very angry person, that you are reacting to everything that's happening to you, right? And you're like, I can't even recognize myself. I'm just getting angry. And you think you're standing up for yourself, but you're just becoming very reactive, very angry, and it's having the opposite effect in the relationship. You're with them, and they're like, see, I told you, you're an aggressive person. I told you something is wrong with you. I told you you don't have your bearings in place. Look at how you scream. And now, because you're the empath, because you're the codependent, and you want to be a perfect person, every time you're criticized for all of these things that they're saying because of your anger, you're like, they're right. No, I need to fix myself. I need to work on myself. Who am I becoming? This is not my value. This is not what I learned in my life. I really want to become a better person. I need to be calm in spite of the other. But it's not possible. You don't have the tools, you don't have the resources, and all the inner personality strength that you had, which could help you stay calm in the face of all of these things. You've lost all of that over the years, right? Because you're broken. You don't have anything to hold on to. There is no foundational pieces left, right? And I had a client like that. Um, when she came to us, she was so scared of speaking anything because she had believed and internalized that she was this very angry and aggressive person. And it's only because of that her marriage went into divorce. Yes. And she was convincing us that no, my problem is my anger, and I'm here to fix my anger. And you have to help me fix my anger. And I'm so angry. I'm so upset. I just get irritated for everything. And that's what, um, you know, my ex-husband cited as a reason for the divorce. But as we worked with her, we helped her remember who she used to be before all of that, and how some of them don't even know they were in a narcissistic relationship, and how she was a victim of very systematic abuse. This was not a normal, like two people who don't get along in a marriage. No, she was being abused, and she was coping because that's what her nature was, right? Not that her nature was to fight, but her nature was to stand up for herself. And she had not become an angry person. That's not what she had become. She didn't know another way to cope in that situation. And the divorce did not break down before because of the anger. There was no marriage between her and the narcissist anyway. Yes. So we helped her overcome all of that, helped her come to her state of normalcy. First come to recognize that this is what's happening to her, and this is all the changes that have happened to her in her personality, and then also why she couldn't see through because of her own vulnerabilities. Then a 5-step process to heal, and then to learn how to set boundaries, and learn how to communicate better instead of getting like really aggressive and angry. Get Communicate better, and then also focus on her goals with zeal and grow. And now she got promoted to an associate director in her company, and she has a team of 10 people reporting to her, and it's a Fortune 500 company. Right now, the other thing that happens, like, this is what I've talked about, like people who in that situation they get so angry and upset, and then there's reactive abuse, because you're getting angry on the abuse and how you're being mistreated, and how they're mistreating you and saying all the nonsense to you. But then they say, see, you're an angry person, look at this is who you are, etc. That's called reactive abuse. Yes. Now, that's one way people respond. The other way people respond is that they don't fight it out. They internalize everything that they've heard. They internalize, yeah, I'm good for nothing. Yeah, I can't even figure how to do this. Like, if they made a mistake getting something done, and then their partner's criticizing them, like, you couldn't even get this and you're so stupid, and like, I'm stupid. Or like, even if they're not stupid, there's something better than their partner, and instead of the partner considering it as a partnership, partner's getting jealous, like, my God, this person is shining and this person is now going to look better than me. So how do I break their confidence? And then they break your confidence and telling you, like, that this is a stupid way to do it. It's useless. This is the right way to do it. And because you see them, they're very flamboyant, they're very charming, they're very like, out there, and they're like, they could be high achievers also because they don't process emotions and people. They just focus on their goal and they go really fast. You start believing them. Like, oh no, they know better than me. Let me believe them. Right. So you gradually, your confidence starts chipping away. Anything you say, you're being cut short. Anything you propose, like even if you're proposing a vacation and an optimized way to do it, they'll be like, no, that's stupid. This is how vacations are done. And then it comes to a point where they argue with it, they just argue with you, they disagree with you just to belittle you because they can't handle your intelligence, they can't handle your confidence, and they have to seem supreme. Now, because you have some vulnerabilities, um, you start and you're looking for certain things outside, you believe everything they say and you end up losing your confidence in yourself. You end up having a lower estimation of yourself, low self-esteem. You and because there's constant criticism, and it's natural to believe it, even if you don't have vulnerabilities, it's natural to believe it when you're constantly in that situation, that you forget yourself. You think you're useless, you think you're good for nothing. And then whatever way in which you could have been creative in your life or constructive in your life or done something with meaning, and even raising your children, you're just not sure about yourself half the time, right? You kind of become a shadow version of yourself, broken, lost, internalized a lot of guilt because they're constantly criticizing you and you're like believing everything they say, and you start internalizing everything that they're saying. Yes. So this personality, that's another thing, that's another effect in how people, I'm just looking at my notes here so that I make sure that I have everything here, right? So all this guilt and all of these things, you start believing it because your nature is to constantly work on yourself, to constantly be perfect, right? So you take everything in. You don't have any filter on the feedback. You take everything in and you start working on yourself. You've lost your passion. You've lost your drive, lost your confidence. Like I had that breakdown where I just won an award at Microsoft and I was coming back home and like the shuttle dropped me. I used to take the internal shuttle because I lived really close to the campus and I needed to cross the road. And I pressed the button to cross the road so that, the walking sign can come in. And then I know I was standing there for at least a few times, a few changeovers in the signal where it went from the red stop man to the green walk man. And I was so confused as to when to cross the road. And this is when I just won an award at Microsoft. And I was like, I don't even know. And then somebody came there, or somebody, like one of my friends was passing in the car, and I think somebody was standing next to me. And then I walked with that person in the car. My friend was like, hey, what are you doing? Why did you just walk? I'm like, oh, that means I need to cross the road here. To that level, my confidence and my clarity had become so unsure, and I was just second guessing myself all the time. And that happens, but here I am. I am not in that state anymore, and I have followed a 5-step process to heal and recover myself. And what you need to do is to recognize if your personality has changed. Now, how do you know if your personality has changed? Is you do that by remembering who you used to be before this relationship. Now, how do you remember? Like some people come to me for after 30 years of being in that relationship. They don't even remember who they used to be. They just have no memory of that, right? So then I tell them, go back, think about the accolades you got in your school, think about the accolades you got in society, remember what are some of the things that your friends at that time used to say about you, and like go back and make that as a reference point of who your personality is. So that's one thing you need to do, is to remember who you used to be, and then you got to work to go back to being that person, go back to reviving that person. And it's possible, but it's hard because you've lost all the foundational principles, the self-belief, the self-confidence, and the ability to do things. And it requires a lot of healing and a lot of steps, and that's what we share in the Heal Strong program. Is I'll just share screen here so it helps you understand. Here we go. This is how these are the steps we follow in the Heal Strong program. Let me see what you see. Do you see me? You see me. Yes. So this is the Heal Strong journey timeline to help people recover from toxic abuse. Is first is to understand, what are you dealing with? What are the toxic traits of this person? And that can be very hard to understand, that who you are living with is a narcissist and you just couldn't spot it for so many years, but it still gives you some relief because you're like, there's a pattern. This is a template. This is how they behave. I'm not the only one facing this. That, so there is, that means there's a way out here. There's a diagnosis of the problem. That means there's a solution to the problem. And then this is the peel stage, where you overcome your vulnerabilities and you overcome this transition person that you've become. So far, all that I've described, where because of your coping mechanism and because of all that you're going through, you become a certain different type of person, and that's called a transition person. So you recognize who that transition person you've become, you peel out all those layers so that you can start your healing, right? And then you also recognize your own vulnerabilities as to what made you susceptible to this abuse. We had a certain nature, a certain giving nature, a trusting nature. We were looking for love and approval on the outside, and so many more things. There are 10 points I identified there. And then you get into the heal stage, where once you've identified everything and you've learned everything, then you go into a very deep 5-step healing process, right at the emotional level, the energetic level, the thought level, the spiritual level, and the physical level, like all 5 levels. Because if you just do it at the mental level, at the thought level, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. You can go for years and years of therapy. You can go for years and years of coaching, where they're just dealing with your mind, and it doesn't work, because we work at 5 levels, because all of these things are stuck as energy in your body. And some people are like, oh, I'll get chakra healing done. That will not work too, because you may get chakra healing done, but you've not worked on your thoughts. You've not worked on the past memories that are stuck. It needs a holistic process, yes? And then after that, you learn how to deal. A lot of people come and tell me, teach me how to deal. Tell me, how do I do boundaries? Tell me, how do I do this? Yeah, I can teach you how to do boundaries, and I'm going to give you all the solutions there, but it's not going to work, because to set boundaries, to stick to boundaries, to be confident in setting those boundaries, to not be nervous if the person withdraws from you, because you set a certain boundary, or you're not feeling alone and lonely and what do I do in my life, all of that requires you to be a certain person, and for that the 4 steps are necessary. Then once you learn how to deal, then there is zeal, where you go all out and you're able to um, become the person who you want to be, and and live your life authentically, and learn how to thrive even in a toxic relationship. So that's what you need to do. As you Let me maximize screen here. That's what you need to do in order to recover yourself, and in order to bring back that transition, not be that transition person, but to go back to who you used to be, and to go back investing into who you want to be, and who you with happiness, with inner peace, with contentment, with confidence, with no more being in this constant heightened alert mode about what's going to happen, and how do I need to now respond to this situation. No, you can be calm, you can be happy, and you can be in that relationship but still be centered in yourself, and be focused on who you want to be, focus on your growth, focus on your aspirations. Yes, it is possible. So I'm really sorry that you are in that situation, and you have all my prayers and all my love and all my good wishes. And I warmly invite you to a webinar I'm doing on Friday, September 5th, 6th, sorry, September 6th, which is 6:30 p.m. Pacific time, which is 7 a.m. India time. And you can join the webinar and you can learn in depth this 5-step process to heal and recover. And very quickly, I'm going to be putting the link to join the webinar in the chat. So here you go. And oh wow, there are so many chats here. I didn't even see that. Sorry. Let me engage. Heal Strong webinar. I think that's the link, and I will be putting the link very soon. So this webinar is going to teach you my 5-step process to help you heal and recover, and not just recover but thrive and live the life you want. And this should just be a mosquito bite in your life. This should not be a big gaping wound, this narcissistic person. This should just be like a small mosquito bite that you just keep brushing, and you just keep little bit, whatever you need to do, but that's not your whole life. That's not your identity. Your identity is bigger, your purpose and things that you want to do. So I look forward to you joining the webinar, and a lot of things here, right? There's a worksheet linked below. There are all these healing bracelets that you can get from me, that I recommend people to get from me, because one is for self-love, another is to get your personal power back, another is to get a calm mind, another is to heal your relationships, another is to learn how to be confident in your communication again. But before you do all that, join my webinar on Friday, 6:30 p.m. And I look forward to serving you and teaching you my 5-step method and sharing some very special bonuses out there for all those who join. So I look forward to seeing you. And uh, I'm just looking at, there are some nice comments here. Sundar Singh ji, thank you so much for listening. Story of Pingla from Bhagavatam, yes, it's very inspiring. But I lose hope again, and I'm listening to you again. Please start with accepting wherever you are in your journey, and then going from there. Sundar Singh ji, wish you all the best. Thank you so much, Anil ji. Suhani ji is here as well. So sorry to hear that happened to you too. And see you all inside the webinar.